Welcome back to the Beast Game podcast. We're doing our top 100. I know it's been a while. And James, what are 3 movies out of your top 100?
Okay, so I'm going to stick with a theme since we are in the month of October and the greatest day is in October, Halloween. I'm going to start off with horror films, which, to be honest with you, everyone probably already knows that most of my films in my top 100 are horror movies. But this time, it is horror movies from Italy.
Interesting.
So, if anyone knows me, they know that I watch all kinds of horror movies from different countries, different cultures, all this stuff. It's interesting to see how different cultures view horror. Right now, Italian horror films aren't as big as they used to be, but back in the day, I would say probably around the 70s and 80s, maybe early to mid 90s, Italian horror films were pretty good.
And I think I know who you're going to go with.
Italian horror films were pretty big. 70s, 80s, 90s. Japanese horror films are big now.
Probably early 2000s for the Japanese horror films, Korean horror films.
Right. Let's just say Asian horror films. Like you said, they're Korean, they're Taiwanese,
might be
Chinese.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with this movie called City of the Living Dead. This movie has like 3 billion titles. One is City of the Living Dead. The other one's called The Gates of Hell. And it's directed by Lucio Fulci. I'm quite sure I'm destroying his name, but this is one of my favorite horror movies from him. Like, he's one of my favorite Italian horror film directors. So this is one of my favorite movies. And I found out about this movie from my mom, which is kind of odd. My mom and I were having a conversation. She was like, well, all that I remember was there was a scene that this woman basically threw up her insides, threw up her stomach, her intestines, all this shit, right? I was like, oh my God, I want to see it. And this is kind of weird coming from, I found a movie. It was called Gates of Hell. And like I told you, it has many different names. So the synopsis of this movie is that a priest committed suicide on cemetery grounds. By doing that, he opened the gates of hell and dead come back to life. It's as simple as that.
Interesting.
But the thing that sets this movie apart to me is the way it was filmed and the gore. One thing that Lucio Fulci is known for is gore. Italian horror movies are gory as all shit. And usually very attractive females for that time frame. The special effects were pretty decent for the time. How it was shot was pretty good. One thing that Lucio Fulci always does, he has extreme close-ups. And it's kind of like a fish-eye lens. It's dated a little bit, but it's still good. So my next movie is something that was more mainstream. I think a lot of people know about this, especially in the horror genre. It's called Zombie. Also directed by Lucio Fulci. Same camera technique, same everything. But this was Italian's version of Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead. Because they named their movies totally different when it came from, like, just say Night of the Living Dead was named something totally different in Italy. Dawn of the Dead was named something totally different in Italy. It was on those lines, but it was just called Zombie when it came here to the United States. There's a scene in this movie that is a well-known scene, like I said, amongst horror fans, is when a shark and a zombie have a fight. I know it sounds crazy, but it happened. The zombie bit the shark, and the shark ripped off the arm of the zombie. It is perhaps the craziest scene in a horror movie history, but yet it is memorable. I would never forget that. And then the scene when the zombie slowly comes up from the grave, just like the way it was shot was so beautifully done, and then attacks the woman that's in front of him. And then one of the most graphic scenes I've ever seen to this day was in this movie. And seeing the eye gouge, it's a slow drag. You see like the piece of wood coming towards the eye. You see it is so slow. Can't turn away. You want to turn away, but you don't turn away. And then that piece of wood just slowly goes into the eye. Well done. Well done. My last movie from Italy would be Suspiria. This is not from Lucio Fulci. I got more movies with him. This was directed by Dario Argentino.
I was going to say him. When I cut you off earlier, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's him because he's probably the next most famous Italian director.
Yeah. So, man, but hell yeah, him and Lucio, man, those are my guys right there. This one was Suspiria, directed by Dario Argentino, and this was a pretty good movie. The visuals in this movie, the music, everything. One thing about Dario Argentino with his movies, it's an experience to me. Well shot, it was colorful, it had the tone, it had the music to go around with it, it had the imagery, it had everything. One of the best Italian horror films I've seen. Not best horror film, best Italian horror film I've seen because it was well rounded. Had a decent story, had enough gore, was shot well, the score was great, the acting was decent. The dub over was kind of bad, but you can't get over that. But outside of that, this was a very good movie. But the story was that this American ballet student that's studying ballet in Italy, and come to find out that the school that she's at is basically a coven of witches. One thing I can say about Italian horror films, their plots are pretty straightforward and to the point. There's not much to really think about. More so about the imagery, the tone, and the gore. Unlike Japanese horror films, when Japanese horror films are totally about the imagery, totally about the setting, into setting the tone, setting the mood, give you that creepy vibe. And I know I may have mentioned this to you, Barry, but to me, the perfect horror movie has a mixture of Italian, Asian, and American influence.
Okay.
But no one has done that yet. And it's hard to do that because they're so different. Usually with American horror films, they have a pretty decent story compared to the rest. I mean, Japanese have pretty decent stories, but most of their horror movies are based on curses. Based on the supernatural.
Yeah, I agree.
But those are my top 3 for this countdown. Okay, so Barry, what are your top 3 for this time around?
All right, so I am going with the theme of cruise control. And if you know where I'm going with that, I'm talking about Tom Cruise and 3 of his movies, which he does appear more times on the list than these 3 movies. The first movie is 2004's Collateral, which was directed by Michael Mann, starred Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. Was it Jada Pinkett Smith in there too?
Yeah, she was in that.
Yeah. Yeah, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, but Jamie Foxx plays a cab driver. One of the people that he picks up is Jada Pinkett. She is a lawyer, and at least at the time, he's flirting with her. It might pay off, but he's a cab driver, she's a lawyer, and he drops her off, but then he picks somebody else up who is Tom Cruise's character, Vincent. So he's knocking off people for a particular court case. Mark Ruffalo, who plays a police officer, is trying to hunt down like all these people that are related to this case being killed. And it also turns out that Jada Pinkett's character
is on the list, right?
Yeah, she is the lawyer of the case all these people are part of. So kind of the big arc of the movie is how Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx interact with all this madness going on outside of the cab. It's a very dialogue-driven movie. Vincent is just telling all these stories about his life, and none of it makes sense. Jamie Foxx is there just to be the person that is really just an audience analog. I want to get out of this cab. Please let me out. Why don't you get out? But Vincent is so intent on using everything against him that it's like, well, hey, if you leave, I'm going on a massacre. Tom Cruise, very good actor in this movie. The action part of it, Tom Cruise did a lot of his own stunts. Jamie Foxx is pretty good. Mark Ruffalo is pretty good. Jada Pinkett's pretty good. That is the first Tom Cruise movie. The next Tom Cruise movie is 1988's Rain Man, directed by Barry Levinson, features Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. And this is one of my favorite movies. So Tom Cruise plays a car dealer. He has a very bad relationship with his father. His father's dying. He's trying to figure out where his father's money is going to, his father's estate, and is going to a random person, or at least a person that he thinks is random. So what it turns out to be is that Dustin Hoffman is playing a autistic person that he can do like total recall. He can read something, spit it back to you. He is like very meticulous about certain things, so things have to be done a certain way. Otherwise, he freaks out. He's very structured. When things break that structure, that he just starts getting upset. He's not what most people would call normal, but he is normal. Crux of the movie is that Tom Cruise is just in it for the money. He doesn't care about his half brother, who is Dustin Hoffman. He has like this grand scheme about how he can take all the money from him. They go to Las Vegas eventually. How they start bonding, and Tom Cruise begins to care. One of the main scenes in the movie that also appears in The Hangover when they go to the casino to play blackjack. That
oh shit! I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Go ahead.
So Tom Cruise plays Charlie. Dustin Hoffman plays Ray or Rain Man. He can count cards because, again, he has total recall. He can pay attention to certain things that other people would not pay attention to. And he is counting cards and making tons of money. Tom Cruise tries to utilize that in order to make money off of Charlie. But the end of the movie, Tom Cruise figures out that it's not about the money. It's about his brother. He is bonded with this person. Tom Cruise at some point forgets that he even had a brother because the brother, his parents put Dustin Hoffman's character into a facility that could treat him. So he had never seen him after that point. That's Rain Man.
Didn't Tom Cruise's character have like some badass girlfriend and she was really nice to Rain Man?
Yeah, I think she was Valeria Galino.
Yeah, the chick. Oh, that's the chick that was in Hot Shots.
That's Rain Man, second movie of the Cruise Control Top 100. The last movie is 2003's The Last Samurai. Directed by Edward Zwick. Stars Tom Cruise and Ken Watanabe. So I'm a big history buff. The thing with this is that this is taking place during the late 1800s. Japan was in a very form of isolation up until that point. They did not want to have contact with outsiders. The Meiji era happens. What was traditional Japan meeting what is modern world? Japan is in a state where they want to become modern and want to wear suits as opposed to traditional Japanese attire. It is clashing, so Ken Watanabe plays a samurai who wants to live that lifestyle, that older traditional lifestyle in Japan. And Tom Cruise is a former Civil War soldier, and he is tasked with going over to Japan to train soldiers there. During one of the training segments, he figures out that the Japanese are woefully unprepared, that they are operating with slightly older weapons. What happens is that Ken Watanabe's character, who, again, wants to return to the traditional lifestyle, attacks them, kidnaps Tom Cruise, forces Tom Cruise to kind of learn Ken Watanabe's character's culture. Main thing with that is Tom Cruise is initially resistant, and I believe that he kills a warrior during one of those battles. So Ken Watanabe forces him to live with the wife of the warrior that he killed. And they start bonding. Tom Cruise begins to accept the culture, but then is brought back to the era of Japan, wants to become more modern. Ken Watanabe's character, family was also close to the king. He's trying to beg the king to not modernize, to stay Japan, stay traditional. The king's balance is that he's trying to do it for his people. He's trying to be modern for his people because he wants his people to move forward. And Ken Watanabe, his character says, well, Japan is this. Japan should always be this. And it kind of culminates in a very large battle. So Tom Cruise chooses the side of Ken Watanabe's character. There's a big battle scene. And it's a great movie. Great movie.
I have no disagreements with you there, man. That's one of the best movies that I have seen.
It's not necessarily based on the true story, but there's elements of it. Era of Japan kind of culminated in the Satsuma Rebellion, where samurai, people that wanted to live a traditional lifestyle, fought to protect that lifestyle against the people in Japan that wanted to modernize. And I also think that is based off of a French soldier, might have went through some similar things, not necessarily things that happened in the movie, but he might have lived with a samurai for a while. But it is not necessarily 100% accurate because they were ninjas in that movie. That's Matt's thing.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up too. There was ninjas in this because, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, most of the ninjas were fucking wiped out by samurai.
Yeah.
Or the ninjas went into hiding. Ninjutsu and all that, they kind of disappeared after a while. But the fight scenes were actually pretty good. From a person that has dipped and dabbed in swordsmanship and kenjutsu, it was well done. I really liked the movie. Training sequences, because to be honest with you, I've been through those training sequences. You actually get hit on purpose because you fucked up. So, yeah, great movie. Didn't it win Best Picture?
So it was nominated for a couple of Oscars. Best Actor in a Supporting Role was Ken Watanabe. Best Set Direction, Best Costume, and Best Sound Mixing. It did not win for any of those. Last Samurai, Rain Man, Collateral, Beast Game Top 100, 3 movies out of our top 100. Peace.